Hey guys, today we're going to answer the age-old question, should you be doing partial squats or full depth squats? We've had this argument for decades, we're going to answer it today. Squatting is one of the most commonly performed movements in all of our movement repertoire. It likely is the second most fundamental movement of all time, probably behind the deadlift, but it's probably the most common movement in training. I think people train the squat more than they train the deadlift. So there is a gold standard way to train it. So I'm going to get this out of the way first. There is a sport specificity side of this. So if you're doing a sport where all you're doing is partial jumping or partial explosions or partial squatting, then partial squatting may be the best thing for you because it's sport specific to what you're doing. You create adaptations specifically for that movement. But for everybody else, for wellness, for life, for strength in general, for power, full depth squatting seems to be a better answer. We have 3 articles that we'll put in the description that we cite pretty heavily for this, because it's evident that when you do full depth squatting versus partial squatting or half squatting, parallel squatting, whatever you want to call it, you're stronger, you're more powerful at more complete ranges of motion. Your muscle thickness, you show muscle hypertrophy. They actually get bigger than if you were just partial squatting or half squatting. Full squatting altogether seems to be a much better option than doing partial squatting or half squats. Not only because of the strength and power, because of the muscle size, but also because if you use that range of motion, you keep that range of motion throughout the entirety of your life. So when you're 90 years old and you're starting to struggle getting out of a chair, you won't struggle as much as if you've been squatting to full depth your whole life. It just makes sense. One more topic we'll cover on this is they tested people's knee flexion range of motion, the extension range of motion. So people's knee extension at more dramatic extension levels. So 0 knee extension is when the leg is entirely locked out. So as we break from there, we go into knee flexion. So at 75 degrees knee flexion, at 120 degrees knee flexion, the people who did full depth squatting were far stronger and far more powerful at those more full ranges than the people who did partial squatting or half squatting. It makes total sense. We want to be strong throughout the range. We want to work the muscle in an elongated position. That's what we're doing when we squat to depth. And it just seems to be so much better for us as humans. But again, I don't want to ignore the sport specificity. If you're playing a sport where doing partial squats is advantageous for that sport, that may be the way to go, but I would highly recommend at some point in your training program, one day a week, maybe 2 days a week, get in some full squats just for your health, and that will help translate much better to whatever partial program you are doing. So this is the age-old question, should we do half squats or full squats? The answer is we should do full depth squatting, butt to ground work, okay? So that should be what you should do in your training program for health, wellness, power, strength, all the above. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you soon.